Hi, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. How you guys doing? I see you chatting it up. I always love to see that. Hope you're doing okay. Hope you're having um, a relaxing and peaceful Saturday. Where I am in the world today, it is cloudy. So I was able to get a little bit of gardening done before I got on tonight. And you know how you if you guys are gardeners, okay, you probably know the dilemmas, but you know how you set out to do, let's say, the left side of your property, or you're just going to do a little bit in the front, and then you end up around the back and on the sides and then on the roof. And then, that's kind of what happened to me today. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do my shrubs, kind of, you know, give them some shape, make sure they're healthy, getting enough fertilizer, that kind of thing, water, sun. And after I did the shrubs, guys, then I ended up on the side of my house doing something else. Then I ended up with the tool belt around my waist. Then I ended up in the backyard. It's like, oh my God, I think I have OCD, but I have a specific one. And mine is like house OCD, where if I see something wrong over there, then the whole house needs help. Somebody help me. I think I need some therapy or something to help me with my OCD. But it's pretty bad, guys, because I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I'm only going to do that. And then I end up doing so much. And then I'm late for my own live chat. So that explains my 5 minutes of getting on here late. But guys, I'm so glad to see you. Hope you're doing okay. Let me hook this into Instagram. For some reason, Instagram acts like this every single live chat. So let me go ahead and get them started. And then, how do I do this again? Here we go. And then we will go ahead and jump in. This is a conversation, guys, that I really do enjoy having with people, because I think a lot of us can relate to having this feeling of being alone right in the middle of our families, right? Being a family and sharing the same blood, and having the same last name and having the same experiences doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to make us feel close to our family, right? Just because we share a last name, just because we have the same bloodline, just because we may share some values and some morals, doesn't necessarily mean that we are family. There's something that can bind family members together that is really good and really beautiful and really healthy when it is that, right? But there's also this other dynamic, this other piece that kind of separates us from our family, right? And so there, for you as an example, let me welcome Instagram really quickly. I'm going to say, hi friends, come join me on my channel. Give me 1 second, guys. If I can spell channel, if you'd like a community experience. Okay, there we go. Instagram is good to go. But there is this internalized feeling that you can have that can make you feel really separated from your family. You could be sitting right in the midst of them at a birthday party, at a holiday, at a funeral, God forbid. But we all know we all have to die one day, right? So that is a very realistic thing. So you might be sitting around them in a funeral. You might be with them on Sunday at church, and you're sitting right in the midst of them. And yet your heart and your mind and your soul feels millions of miles away from them. You may find yourself feeling like you are the stranger in the family. And I think that most humans today, if they would be genuine and honest with themselves, I think that they would agree that they have had an experience of that nature, that they may be communicating with family, texting and talking with family, emailing family, spending, occasions together, holidays, all of that. And yet there's so many differences between you and your family that it's almost painful to sit around them. You may be in this dichotomy as well, where, one side of you wants to be a family member who is interconnected with their blood, right? But then the other side of you knows that if you attempt to get close to them, or if you remain close to them, you're going to lose privacy or confidentiality. You're going to lose your sense of self. You're going to lose your morals and ethics. You're going to feel insecure. You may also be disappointed. And you may find yourself internalizing a deep-seated belief that you are flawed. Does that make sense, guys? And when I counsel families who are going through this, and when I give presentations at conferences about feeling alone in your family, anytime I say that you can actually begin to internalize messages from your family that you are flawed or in some way different from them, I always get somebody in the audience look at me like, wow, and it's like a light bulb moment for them. And they understand what that feels like. Isn't it scary when you can be in a crowd of people, right? You could be in the most lively place and yet feel so all alone. Interesting, right? Here's why. Research in psychology suggests that it is an emotional disconnect and it makes you feel like a stranger. There's a lack of meaningful connection. There is a lack of shared values, and there is a lack of love and affection that is genuine. Not the love and affection that you show your cousin because you guys are cousins and you feel like you just should love them. No, we're talking about the genuine love and affection that says, you are my responsibility. I love you as my flesh and blood. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to love you unconditionally, and I'm going to hold your hand. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to hurt you, but I'm going to uphold our relationship as family members, no matter what, right? That is really what makes you feel interconnected to your family, right? But when you don't feel that way, we are dealing with something that existential psychology has called existential aloneness. I'm going to put this in the chat box. It's existential aloneness. Okay. And what is this? Well, existential aloneness is a deep, inevitable separation. It's a deep, inevitable separation from others in a family. So I'm going to put that in here. It's a deep, inevitable, trying to think if I should put, I'll just put it. So it's a deep, inevitable separation from your family. Existential aloneness. The reason it's called existential aloneness is because it's this spiritual, philosophical idea that even though I'm around people, I'm not necessarily isolated, because I could be sitting right in the middle of a conversation that's happening all around me involving my family members, and yet my world comes to a screeching halt because I feel like I'm the only one in this experience right now, and I don't feel interconnected to anybody. I don't feel understood by anybody, and I don't feel that there's a meaningful connection here. So I'm sitting here all alone in this basic separation. It feels like a separation, and it feels like we are strangers in this communication, even though we are not. And so existential aloneness says this is something that we grapple with as human beings. This is not necessarily a psychiatric problem. That is why I love, love, love existentialism, which is the ideology that I tend to use with my clients. We have dialectical behavior therapy, we have DBT, we have CBT. Some of you may have seen that, cognitive behavior therapy. Well, I use that as needed. But the way that I approach my clients often is through an existential lens, which means I am looking at you as not necessarily having a problem. I'm looking at you as having a problem that is seated in human experience, that you are going to have a struggle with A, B, and C, because life is hard, because life is inevitably confusing, right? Because life requires so much of you that it can weigh you down, make you feel alone, make you feel disconnected, make you feel insecure. So existential psychology is so great in that sense, because it's saying, I'm going to take away those diagnostic labels for a second, and I'm going to kind of look at you in the view of, this is an inevitable piece of life that you're going to have to deal with and figure out how to deal with and manage and cope with, because it's life, you know? So existential aloneness kind of says that. It says, oh, so you feel alone. Well, a lot of people feel alone. And that is a philosophical, spiritual foundation of a lot of people, a lot of people's lives. I'll put it that way. It's a deep-seated, I'm alone. I'm ultimately alone. And it's scary, right? But it's a core aspect of human experience. So you may feel that way. You may feel that way. And that is okay. That is okay. Existentialism, I'll put it that way. Existentialism is very helpful for those of you who feel like you are alone in your family, because you may find yourself grappling with some of the ideas of existentialism. And the whole philosophy of existentialism is this, that you're going to grapple in life with not only feeling alone, not only feeling isolated, but you're also going to grapple with trying to understand death, loss, and grief. You're also going to grapple with trying to understand meaninglessness and meaningfulness, right? What is meaningful? What is not? What is a meaningful life? What is not, right? Freedom. You're going to have some questions about freedom. Why don't I feel free? Why am I lied to and told that I'm free when the ultimate existence is not really freedom? I'm still bound, right? There's always some way to be trapped or some way to feel trapped. And then, of course, isolation. That's the fourth thing. It's death, freedom, isolation, and meaningfulness. Those are like the four pillars of concern of humanity. And so even though we have those four pillars, we might as well throw in existential aloneness, because that is also a part of the equation, that you're going to feel alone in some part of your life at some point in time. It's an inevitable experience. That is what causes certain people within a toxic or dysfunctional family dynamic to go outside of the family and try to build another family for themselves, because they don't feel grounded within their family. They feel excluded. You kind of become the excluded individual, right? And the one who cannot interconnect with other people within the family. While you are going through that experience, you may start to experience the lost feeling of, who am I? Right? So you kind of lose a little bit of yourself. Who am I? I know I'm from that family dynamic. I know my family thinks and behaves this way. I know there's all of that about my family that I don't like. I know that I've been hurt by A, B, C, and D. I know they're not as wonderful and great as they appear to be on the outside, right? I know that we are all not perfect, right? We're not perfect. Nobody is. But there's some things that could be avoided that hasn't been. And so it's contributed to my feeling of aloneness, right? So these are things that you may be saying to yourself. All of this is true. All of this is true because it is true. And I feel that it is true. What am I doing here? Why am I here? How is my life supposed to go, right? So then you start going down the road of, what's the meaningful pieces of my life if I cannot interconnect with my family? That's what I'm getting at. And so then sometimes, and this is when clients come to my office, and they're saying, I need therapy, right? Because at this point, now you're isolating, now you're feeling alone. You may be even experiencing what psychology calls existential social loneliness. I'm going to put that in here. So it's existential social loneliness. And really what that concept is social aloneness. It's the absence of relationships. So the absence of relationships. Okay? Because here's what most, if I can spell, bear with me, guys. I see some of you on here talking about I can't spell tonight. Was that you, Shauna Thompson? Yeah, I think so. All right. I'm going to get to you guys in just a second, but I'm trying to lay out a foundation for you because, yeah, Bree says, wow, that's me. Yeah, I had a feeling that this would kind of hit home. So I want to lay this out for you first. Then I'm going to get to the chat box. But you may be feeling all of those things, right? Excuse me. And social loneliness is really a deep kind of internal experience where you feel like nobody can relate to you at all. Nobody understands you. Nobody's getting what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And no matter what, you're kind of treated as, somebody who is maybe difficult to deal with, or, somebody who is too sensitive, or somebody who doesn't seem to want to make things work. But the reality for a lot of people that's often overlooked is that you may just be feeling alone in that dynamic of a family. A family, anytime I do family therapy, I often explain a family is like a busy city. Everybody's hustling and bustling and moving around and zipping here and there and trying to get everything done, right? If you think of New York City, for an example, there's big lights, there's billboards, there's people, there's cabs, there's taxis, there's lifts, like there's so much going on. And it's like congestion constantly with traffic, and you hear people blowing on each other. You hear people talking, a bunch of people walking the roads and the sidewalks, right? New York is a very busy, chaotic kind of a place. And a family can be seen in the same exact way, that you are in the middle of this family that's so busy and so chaotic and maybe even so dysfunctional that you feel lost in the shuffle. And you can't figure out, how do I feel an interconnection to my family when all they do is make me feel excluded? There's something known as family cliques. Family cliques. So I'm going to put that in here. Family cliques. How do you spell cliques, guys? Is it Q-U-E-S? I think so. Q-U-E-S. Cliques. I think I got it right. Family cliques. And what that is it's a subgroup of people in the family. Okay. So consider it this way. You have a big family. My family is huge. Okay. My family is huge. We've lost a lot of family members along the way. But I mean, my grandmother, I'll share this with you. My grandmother literally had 14 grandkids. Okay. And if I'm counting that correctly, and then extended family, like it's a ton of people. Okay. We, as a family, my family could my mom's side of the family could possibly fill up the entire restaurant of Red Lobster, if you will, right? Think of your biggest restaurant. My whole family could fit in there on my mom's side. Same thing on my dad's side. So I come from a really big family that's really busy. And I've always been the person that's like, okay, love you from a distance. Adios, amigos. I got to go over here because I got to be able to think. I want to be independent. I can't take a lot of nonsense. I can't take a lot of loudness. I can't just hang out with you guys every day. So I've always been that kind of a person. So you may feel the same way as well. Like, I need my space. It's cut out here. I don't want to see everybody that's in this family. I love you from a distance. And I have certain family members too that I really, really admire and I love, and I don't mind seeing them. I could be with them every day. But some of my other family members, I think, no, I can do without you. No harsh feelings, but you can stay over there. You know what I mean? And so you guys probably experience the same thing. And here's what happens in a dynamic like that. Family cliques form. Think of that New York City example I just gave you. It's a big city, right? within that big city is a small corner of individuals that creates a bond that's so tight and enmeshed, right? That you almost forget the boundary because it's so enmeshed, right? So an example of this could be, let's say your father, who's just cold and callous, you don't really care for his side of the family. They're a little aloof, they're a little judgmental, a little strange, and you don't feel comfortable with them. But okay, it's Christmas, right? So you're going to go with your dad to your family's home. You have about 20 family members there. Everybody's talking. There's food and music and loudness, and everybody is kind of crammed into this space. And, you figured you would give it a try. But you see in that moment, right, when you sit down, you look around, you take notice of what's around you. You look and you see in the corner Aunt Susu, Uncle BB. I'm using that as examples, guys, because I know you love Aunt Susu and Uncle BB. Aunt Susu, Uncle BB, Kevin, and Dan, and maybe Dan's new wife and his 5 kids. You see them in the corner, okay, of the party, and they stayed like that the entire party. Maybe Uncle Kevin over there tried to get in and offer some advice or ask some questions, but they pushed him out of the way, and they continued to be this small subgroup in the corner of the house, the entire party. Okay. So a family clique is a subgroup. The family is big. A clique is a small subgroup within that big picture. And in that subgroup, oh geez, there are power struggles. There's a social hierarchy. You guys know what that is? In that subgroup of cliques, okay, somebody is at the top. Somebody is at the top, and they are the cherished family member, the educated family member, the, doctor in the family, the judge in the family, the surgeon in the family, right? The CEO, whatever, right? They are in the family clique, the subgroup, and they are at the top of that social hierarchy. Then there's somebody a little lower, and then somebody a little lower than that, right? And it's a really lonely experience because you don't want to be a part of that family clique. It's ugly. There's gossip that goes on in there. Let me add this in the chat box. So there's gossip. There's triangulation. There's manipulation, envy and jealousy. Okay. There is competition. You hearing all these ugly things that can make you feel alone in your family? They are ugly things, right? This is what is often at the core of a family clique, a subgroup of people within the family. Gossip, triangulation, manipulation, envy and jealousy, competition, secrets, right? Secrets. You don't know who your real dad is, because your real dad is actually Uncle BB, right? Like Uncle BB is your biological father, but you've been told Kevin over here is your dad. So why would you suspect Uncle BB as being your father? That kind of stuff. Okay. So we would call that generational trauma and lies. Okay. Generational trauma, we know what that is. Generational lies, it spreads throughout the family dynamic for many, many years, right? I'll give you an example from my personal family. My family has sat on top of a generational lie for a very long time. On my mom's side of the family, my Uncle Sam, he was awesome. Totally admired him. Helped to raise 2 wonderful girls that are very similar to me. So my grandmother used to say, "You guys are literally sisters because you're so much alike." But my family sat on a family lie, and it wasn't until my late grandmother, my grandma, passed away in 2020, and I'm going through her things to try to separate things and close down her home, and I found some adoption papers. So I open up this manila envelope, and sorry guys, let me get a sip of water. excuse me, I opened up this envelope and it literally had nothing on the manila envelope, and I'm like, okay, what is this, And she had it taped. I'm like, come on, Gaga, why do you have this taped, And that's my grandma. I used to call her Gaga. And what was interesting is I took the tape off, I pulled these papers out, and it showed that my uncle, my family member, was an adopted child by his mother's family. So obviously, my great grandmother couldn't take care of him. So she lost custody. And it ended up being my uncle being raised in a totally different house than the rest of his siblings. And all this time, here I am, 28, 29, 30 at the time. And I thought I knew my family, and I didn't. I had no idea. My great grandmother didn't have the mental capacity to care for her son. And so he ended up being adopted by, her family members or something like that. Yeah. And he didn't grow up in the same house as my other uncles. They were like strangers almost until they became adults. And so my family sat on top of this. And to be very honest, I don't think some of my family members actually knew that because it was such a hidden lie, right? And so generational lies and trauma can also add to you feeling alone in your family because you don't know the things that you should know. So there's been things that's been kept a secret, right? So in this family clique, I'm going to add in here generational trauma and lies and kind of like this hiding of details that is also in there as well. So hiding of details, I'm going to say that changes the family dynamic, right? It changes the family dynamic. Oh, my brother's adopted. Thanks for letting me know, like that changes the complete dynamic, so it is really good to keep that in mind, that part of feeling alone in your family is possibly not knowing all the truth of your family. That can be really sad as well. Family cliques can also form against other family members, right? So we would call this an alliance or coalition. Okay. And an alliance or coalition is when the family kind of binds together because of a common belief, but it's against you. So maybe your brother, sister, cousin, and nephew have decided to bond together in a coalition or an alliance against you because they all believe something's wrong with you and you need psychiatric treatment and you need drug and alcohol treatment and you're not a part of this family because you're strange and you're weird and you're odd and you live your life differently and you're just kind of that sister over there, right? So a coalition and an alliance can be created within a family clique against you, where you literally see with your own two eyes and you sense with your heart and in your soul that they are against me and they are against me because of ABC, right? In a family clique, there is also, I'm trying to think of the other, darn, I lost it. Don't you hate when you're getting ready to say something and it leaves you? I'll probably remember it tonight when I get in bed. So we're going to leave it at family alliances and coalitions. Okay, guys. And so there we go. Family cliques. I'm going to put that in the chat box for you. There you go. So that you can kind of have that definition there for you. Now, before we go to the chat box, because I want to welcome you and engage you just a little bit, let me also add in here internal emotional distress. Now, when you are in a family where you feel detached and separate from your family, and you feel like they don't understand you, you can then start to internalize that emotional distress. And instead of going to a therapist to talk about it, having somebody to kind of, help you, excuse me, there is hair in my lipstick. Guys, when I tell you, I came inside, I jumped in the shower, my hair was like, whoo, and it must have followed me. I don't know. But anyhow, you can start to internalize the emotional distress that you're feeling from being kind of disconnected from your family, right? So feeling alone and distant and disconnected can actually cause you to internalize that distress, and it can lead to significant trust issues, significant power struggles. And then it can also lead to what I talked about earlier, which is this internalized belief that you are flawed, right? And so these are all damaging ways to think about yourself, and damaging ways to kind of think about who you are within your family dynamic. I think the world has a very incorrect view of family. We say that family is everything, right? And family is everything to the point of you are nothing unless you have a family. You have a problem unless you have a family. You are strange unless you have a family. And I think that that is the worst perception of reality to have. Because if you're going through kind of what my family is now going through, which is the death or loss of somebody, right? You have to watch them, and you have to look at them and ask yourself, okay, am I still nothing because you've died, you've passed away, you've decided to walk away? Does that make me what? Less than just because I no longer have this family member or that family dynamic or this family? So you really have to kind of unwire your thinking and ask those tough questions. What if my entire family dies? Does that mean that I am still not worthy because I don't have any of my family members with me, right? If you decide to go no contact and walk away, you have to pause and ask yourself, is my life meaningless? Is my life not full of purpose because I don't communicate with my family? No, it's not. Is being interconnected in a family that important that it's supposed to give me my entire identity, which causes problems for me when they are not around, when they die, when they walk away? Because now I'm basing my whole entire perception of reality, my entire self-worth, my entire life goal on the fact that I am connected to family. That has to be the most erroneous view to have, right? Because again, if you lose all of your family members, does that now mean that you are nothing? No, it doesn't. You still have a life, right? You're still breathing air. You still have meaning in your life, especially if, let's say, for example, God forbid, but let's say, for example, all your family members die, right? All your family members die. What does that mean for you? Do you die with them? Do you give up on life? Do you say, I'm a nobody? Absolutely not. You look at the fact that maybe you have some purpose to live in this life, that you're going to pursue a career that's going to help people. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a politician. I'm going to change some things in life. I'm going to volunteer my time. I'm going to donate, right? I'm going to be a blessing to people. I'm going to mentor people, educate people. I'm going to live my life in a way that is meaningful to me, right? So it's like you really do have to play around with that ideology that family is everything and look at it for what it is, which is what is true. And the reality is that family can be everything if they are loving, if they are kind, if they are humble, if they are embracive, right? If they are people who are going to stand with you no matter what. But family is not everything when they hurt you, right? Family is not everything when they disappoint you to a place of pushing you over the edge, making you want to die, making you wanting to view your life in a way that is not very powerful or significant, right? So you really have to look at, almost like a map on a table, look at the erroneous assumptions and ideologies of family in our society and kind of move and adjust your view of that so that you can then feel less alone. Because really at the core of feeling alone and feeling all alone is having the wrong perception of reality, having the wrong direction in your life, right? Not understanding who you are or having an identity that is not a part of your family? Who am I outside of my family dynamic, right? All of that is dependent upon your view of your family, yourself within your family, and that whole dynamic, right? When we come back, guys, from the chat box, I'm going to talk about the challenges within these families. And then I'm also going to talk about other factors that research has highlighted as being, a trigger to feeling alone within your family. And then I'm going to highlight the impact. And we're going to try to wrap up by 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. All right. Let's go to the chat box, guys. That was a lot. I'm so sorry. I had to lay it out for you, though. Fairy Girl, thank you so much for the super chat. I always appreciate you. And thank you for the memberships. I saw that pass the screen in my periphery, in the corner of my eye, I could see you. Thank you so much for gifting those memberships once again. And welcome to tonight's live chat. It's good to see you. Ann Pulsar, it is good to see you as well. Welcome back, my friend. Ann says, no, my life would not be meaningless. I would have to find my new routine if I left. Absolutely. You would have to find your new routine, and Pulsar. You would have to find what makes you significant in the lives of other people or in your own life. You would have to ask yourself, am I to travel the world? Am I to build my first home? Am I supposed to work a job that's going to make a difference? Am I supposed to relax and enjoy the rest of my life because the beginning of it was so painful and so difficult? Whatever the case may be, you would have to find a different direction and route in your life. And so that's one of the reasons why I often have a problem with the idea that family is everything, because if family is everything, that is wonderful. But if family is everything and you're being abused and hurt and minimized and neglected, and they're condescending to you and they don't understand you and they run off of assumptions and they lack a certain amount of knowledge and maturity, then you need to walk away. You need to walk away, right, guys? Sorry, I'm trying to turn my light on. There we go. So you got to find a new route, and it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, guys. Give it a think. Hello and welcome, my friend. It's good to see you back in tonight's live chat. Ellie Wynn, it's always good to see you in the chat box. Good to see you guys. Axe to Edge, Lori, Dennis Robinson, and Scorpio Bird. Hello and welcome to all of you. It's so good to have you back in tonight's live chat. Bear with me as I go through some of this. And Juby Joe, it's so good to see you tonight. Welcome back. You sure did. You sure did. Yes, you sure did. Curtis Draper. Hello and welcome, my friend. It's good to see you tonight. Exactly. Give it a think. Yeah, give it a think. I love that. All right, let's keep moving, guys. MS, hello and welcome. It's good to see you back in a live chat. MS says, Tamara, did you say you were on the roof? Not yet. I'm headed there. You guys don't know me, okay? Because here's the thing. I'm superwoman when I sign off of YouTube. I really am. The bun goes up, my plaid shirt goes on, my tool belt goes on, and my boots. And I'm like Tarzan, okay? I'm up on my roof cleaning the gutters, with a toothbrush. I'm up there, trying to shine up the skylights. Guys, I know. I seem one way on here. I know. But I have a different side to me. I literally will build something. If you want me to build a shed, let's go get the supplies. We're going to go to Home Depot and let's go build a shed. So, MS, I didn't get on the roof yet. I'm headed there. If I live and I get down right, I'll let you know. All right. Chris M. I always mess that up. Hello and welcome. It's so good to see you in tonight's live chat. Arwen Perea. Hello and welcome. It's good to see you. And thank you so much for the super chat. It's good to see you back tonight. Phil Bradley. It's good to see you. Welcome back. Okay. I'm looking for comments here. Shauna Thompson says, I felt peace and did I say hello to you? I think I did. Shauna Thompson said, I felt peace and sadness when I accepted I needed to step away from my family. I knew I was alone in my family for years, but I stayed in denial. So I didn't have to feel it for way too long. Yeah, I totally understand. Denial is a defense mechanism. Denial is a buffer. Denial is a cloak. It has a particular way that it affects us, and it has a particular way that it protects us too, right? So it sounds to me like it was really hard to walk away. So you kind of, went with emotion until you got up enough courage, perhaps, to just walk away. The sad part about walking away from family is that's not something that you want to do. It's not something that we willingly want to do, right? We want to make it work. We want it to be a long-standing kind of a relationship. But what do you do when the family dynamic is dysfunctional and complex? You have to walk away to save yourself and your sanity. And that creates a big divide. You may even get to a point in that journey of being no contact and feel like, well, maybe if I go back and only just talk to those family members and not those family members, or maybe if I just, see them every holiday and don't talk to them other times, I'll be okay. You may find yourself trying to find some way to still be interconnected to them, And that is the sad reality. It's like you can never really feel peace when you walk away from your family. Yeah, I see that a lot in my office. It's awful to watch. Bree 420, hello and welcome. It's good to see you back. You're my other gifter of memberships. I'm always so thankful for you. Thank you so much for doing that. All right, let's keep moving, guys, so we can get through some of this stuff. MS says, I am different from my family members, and thank goodness. Definitely a lack of everything you just pointed out. Yes, absolutely. I've always been different from my extended family. I'll share this with you. I've always been different. I'm the quiet one. I'm the shy one. I'm the one who, just growing up, I'm the one who would rather read than hang out at the ice cream parlor. I was the kind of young person that didn't need a whole group of friends. I needed 1, 2, or 3 really close friends. I wasn't the person in my family who wanted to hang out with family, especially the ones who are out of town, just because they're out of town. If I'm going to read for the night, I'm going to read for that night, and I will see you tomorrow. I was just that kind of a person, or I'd rather be cleaning my house than hanging out, And so I've always kind of been that kind of a family member. I'll go over here, and while no one's watching, I'll be building my muscles and exercising and eating healthy and cleaning my house and doing all this productive stuff, maybe even building a YouTube channel, for example. And nobody knows because I'm the quiet one. And I don't engage with that chaos over there. I just can't do it, So you may find, and I'm agreeing with you, MS, you may find yourself being very different from your family. See that, depending on what it is, see that as a blessing rather than a thing that's going to put a divide between you and your family. No, it's probably a good thing. Sometimes everybody that's following the leader, they all fall off the cliff. But if you just be yourself within that dynamic, you won't fall off the cliff with them. Do you see where I'm going with that? So it's like you really have to say, it's okay that I am alone in my family. It is okay that I am who I am within this family. Anytime I have clients come in and they say, I don't mix with this one, or this one doesn't mix with me, or we fight all the time, or I always say, okay, what are you going to do about it? Because while you may want that relationship to last and be tight knit, if you will, that may not be what's going to happen. So you got to be okay with that. And you have to be able to swallow the reality that you are different. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not a bad thing after all, All right. Excuse me. All right, let's keep moving. GB Joe, my kind of girl. She says, I just woke up from a nap. Did I welcome you, GB Joe? Hello and welcome. It's so good to have you back in tonight's live chat. You do what my mom does. My mom loves naps. She's like, it's so restorative. And I'm like, yes, it is. You're not being lazy. You're not being shiftless. You're restoring your mind and your soul. Lore Fed, hello. It's good to see you back tonight. Welcome. NGO. I don't know why YouTube's not letting me click on your name. Hold on. Bear with me. NGO, it's good to see you tonight. Welcome back. Okay, we're looking for comments here. D. Jane, it's good to see you. Welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you before, so it's good to have you. Mystic Dime, hello and welcome to the channel. It's so good to see you. Welcome to tonight's live chat. She says, facts, invisibility. Yes, sometimes you can feel very invisible, very. Axe to Edge says, that word existential is so confusing to me. Every time I promise to look it up, I never get to it. Come on, Axe to Edge, you got to look this up. There's even a dictionary on Google. There's no excuse for this. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, existential. Think of it as a cross between spiritual and philosophical, existential. Existentialism studies our existence, I love it so much. It's wonderful. Bree, thank you so much for the memberships. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I want to put you up on the screen. Thank you so much for that. MNL Odell, hello and welcome. It's good to see you in tonight's live chat. Welcome back. I'm looking for comments, guys. Phoenix, it's so good to see you. Welcome back. And my friend Shamita, good to see you. My friend Shamita says, I miss seeing the YouTube notification. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope things are going well for you too. YouTube notification, it's hit or miss. Isn't that frustrating? Sylvie, hello and welcome. It's good to see you. So glad that this is valuable information for you. So good to see. Okay, a couple more comments and then we're going to jump back into the content. Lori says, I was always the black sheep of the family and my mom divided and conquered my sibs and I. Yeah, sometimes that can be intentional. Sometimes it can be unintentional. So I'm going to put this in the chat box. You can have what's called intentional triangulation, right? Or unintentional triangulation. Okay. Intentional triangulation says I'm intentionally pitting people against each other. Unintentional says that I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but it's ending up looking like I'm doing something within the family dynamic. Does that make sense, guys? It's a very ugly thing, though. Nancy R., it's good to see you back tonight. I was glad to see you in a live chat. You're like the mom of the live chat as well, you and Jessica J. All right, let's keep moving here. Mystic Dime says, OMG, my exact situation. Yeah, I totally get you on that one. Totally. Phoenix says, that's been me for the last 2 years. Absence of relationships was a double-edged sword. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Leslie A., hello and welcome. It's good to see you tonight. Leslie A. says, as my family members pass away, it really shows my mom and I who really cares about us. And we don't hear from any of our so-called members, and we have accepted it. Ooh, that's rough. That is really rough. Sometimes family members can't connect, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't love you. It's just you're not a part of their everyday life of importance. Does that make sense? So you're kind of like on that list of people who are connected to you, you're kind of at the bottom of the list and everybody else is probably at the top. You can look at it that way, but then you can also look at it in the way that you're looking at it. Everybody's passing away. Nobody contacts you. It shows you who really cares for you. That can also be a reality. Yeah. Captain Commenter, hello, welcome back. Captain Commenter says, my family of origin is toxic. I want to be embraced by the damn family. Totally understand. I'm going to heart your comment in the chat box. I totally understand you. I do. You can build family members over time, right? A little bit of friends, a little bit of people that you know in the community, maybe some neighbors, right? And you pull them into your world and they seem to do the same thing with you. It's a beautiful dynamic, isn't it? Yeah. Ines, hello and welcome. It's good to see you in tonight's live chat. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, it's been a little bit. Ines says it does get better. Coming from someone who believed it didn't. It gets better and time heals. With age, we see things differently too. Oh, that's so true. What a wise comment. I'm going to heart that comment for sure. Thank you for saying that. Mindy, hello, welcome. It's good to see you. And welcome to the channel. Mindy says, my family had cliques. I didn't fit in. Yep, absolutely. Amy 999, it's good to see you back. Welcome. Please. Thank you, Axe Edge. I appreciate you for that. Thank you. Rolando DD, hello and welcome to the channel. Glad you tuned in. It's good to see you and it's good to have you. Christina Smith, Matthew Stew, or Matt Stew, excuse me, and T Bunny Shy. It's good to see you guys in tonight's live chat. Welcome back to all of you. One more comment, and I'm going to go back to the chat box. Little Johan, it's good to see you. Welcome back, my friend. Little Johan says, what about when the evil parents keep you away from your family? Well, that too is a factor, right? So we would call that family alienation, right? We're alienating you. Let me put this in the chat box for you before I explain it. So family alienation, okay? Family alienation occurs when, come on. My H button has stopped working on my old laptop. So I'm like, sorry, guys. All right. Occurs when, so family alienation occurs when someone isolates you to a specific side of the family. Does that make sense? Family alienation. You're going to be isolated to this part of the family only. You're not going to know about, Aunt Tiffany and Uncle Bobby and David. You're not going to know about that because we're going to isolate you to this one area. You know what I mean? And that does have an abusive nature to it for sure. All right, guys, I said one comment. I'm going to stick to what I said. One last comment. I'm going to stick to that. Let's jump back into the content, guys. So what are the challenges in these kind of families? Research in psychology highlights that in these particular dynamics where you start to feel absolutely alone in your family, there is what we call empathy deficits within the family. There's deficits within the family when it comes to empathy. Nobody can kind of put themselves in the shoes of the other family member. I have seen this in action in families where a loved one has passed away. The person has, an executor of the estate, right? That kind of divvies out what the will says. They kind of execute the will in real time. And I have seen this in the dynamic where the executor is viewed as the enemy because of the way that they are executing the will, right? Sometimes the will can be interpreted in many different ways, and the execution of the wishes of the will can be a little bit confusing, right? But in toxic dysfunctional families where there are empathy deficits, you're going to get family members looking at you like, who do you think you are? Why are you doing this? What are you hiding? What are you sneaking? What are you doing? Where's the money going? Where's that bank account, that bank account, that bank account, And I've actually had families come into me for therapy, and they've gotten into this discussion of wills and power of attorneys and estates. And you can see the empathy deficit, It's like anytime you start talking money, you start talking estates, you start talking wills, everybody switches up and you don't know who they are anymore. You're like total strangers, right? You're here and they're way over there. And as you guys know, those of you who have experienced this, you know that sometimes when somebody dies, if that will isn't executed a way that some other family members wish that it was executed, you can guarantee that you are going to be put on the do not contact list because they are going to either seek to destroy you, spread lies and gossip, right? Run with their own interpretation of the story, or continue to ignore the heck out of you in the family dynamic. And so all of that leads to what, guys? Feeling alone in your family. It's a very, very, very depressing dynamic, right? So empathy deficits, that's an example. You may also feel within this family dynamic a deep sense of exclusion. You know you're being excluded. You know that you're not being respected and loved and cared for. There's something on the inside of you that tells you that you are being excluded and you are never going to be included. So don't even get your hopes up, right? And so you know that on the inside. You know when your family is pushing you to the outskirts of your family, right? There's also a lot of feelings of feeling misunderstood. There's hopelessness. And I'm trying to think of another one that I was thinking about earlier. Here it is, perceived favorites. You may also find yourself feeling like there are perceived favorites and they are all around you. You're not one of them, right? There's also parental immaturity and emotional detachment that adds to this dynamic. So you have parents who are emotionally immature. You have parents who are emotionally detached from reality. And so they hurt you. They say things that are against you. They're not there to support you, right? These are common challenges of family dynamics where you start to feel all alone in your family. Lies end up being spread around and possibly pushed down for many generations, right? You may find yourself struggling there as well. You can't find the truth of anything because your family has just functioned off of lies for a very long time. There's vagueness and this kind of evasive nature to your conversations with your family members. You may feel like you're talking to your cousin, right? You're talking to your aunt, you're talking to your uncle, but there's something in the background playing, you know? And that thing in the background is telling you that you don't really know who this person is. And you're never going to be able to get close to them. And you're never going to be liked or respected within that family dynamic, right? So there's the role of being evasive, right? And kind of hiding things. There's also the role of revenge. That is also in these dynamics. That's also in the family dynamic, right? The role of vengeance. I hate it. I hate it so, so much. You may get a family member that feels like, I'm going to get you back for that. I'm going to get you back for that. And they cause a lot of problems for you. But that is usually at the core of these kind of family dynamics. And of course, it can make you feel alone in your family. You know, you're existing in your family and you've got somebody that wants to attack you. And that can be a very lonely place to be in. You may also find this, I'm trying to find the right word for it. It's kind of like self creation. We can call it that, self creation. You may have a really hard time with kind of building your identity and building who you are. Self creation is important. You've got to know who you are. You have to, in order to function in any relationship in a healthy way. So if you're in a family dynamic and you can't figure out who you are and there's no self creation, there's no authenticity, you're going to feel lost. Now, what does research say about this? Quite a few things, that your feelings of aloneness within your family could have stemmed from your parent. It could have stemmed from your childhood, right? So childhood emotional neglect is really what we would call it. And it's kind of like this repeated disappointment. It's this repeated disappointment when you're seeking any kind of love and affection from your parent or from a family member. Right? So it's kind of this repetitive disappointment over and over and over that you're going to be ignored. You're not going to be loved. You're not going to be cared for. You're not going to be supported. You're not going to be protected. And the more you get those messages repeatedly, the more you start to feel separate from your family. There's no emotional support. There's emotional neglect. There's lies, right? And there's cover-ups. And all of that can lead to you feeling alone within your family dynamic. The other part of this is you may find yourself struggling physiologically. So you feel alone in your family and it's left a burden on your shoulders because you have nobody else to talk to or to lean on. So then what happens? Well, you start internalizing everything and then you start experiencing bodily symptoms or physiological responses. Remember yesterday, I talked about fight or flight. That betrayal triggers the fight or flight mode. Well, guess what? So does feeling alone within your family. So does feeling alone within your family. You begin to kind of you begin to kind of recognize over time that, wow, I am definitely different here and we do not get along, right? So what's the impact on you? Let me get a sip of water. Let's jump into the impact. Excuse me, guys. What is the impact on you? Well, the number one thing that research suggests, and I've also seen clinically, is self-imposed isolation. Self-imposed isolation. I'm going to put this in the chat box. Whoops. It's called self-imposed isolation. You choose to isolate. That's really what that means. Come on. There we go. You choose to isolate. That's what it means. Self-imposed isolation. You choose to isolate. Why do you choose to isolate? You don't want to deal with the chaos. You don't want to deal with the family attitudes. You don't want to deal with the things that makes you feel unloved and pushed to the background, right? You might also kind of feel like you have these unhealed wounds from being in the out group. You have unhealed wounds from being in the out group. What is the out group? Those family members who have been pushed out of the family and deemed unworthy, deemed unlovable, right? Deemed, not quite what they're looking for. Remember, family cliques, they bind together. So if you're not a part of that dynamic, it's a clique against you pretty much, right? And so you may have a lot of pain and sorrow and depression and all of that that's wrapped up in there. So you may have unhealed wounds from the in group. That's just how it is. You may also have a stifled identity, stifled growth. How can you grow when you're knocking on your family door asking to get in? Because you're stuck in that moment in time begging for their love and affection, and you're just knocking away and knocking away. Let me in. And they still remain enmeshed. And all you can do is say, let me in, right? And so they're not going to let you in. So what happens? Well, you kind of have this stifled growth and development over time. Because you feel like you're stuck in time. Does that make sense, guys? There may also be this deep-seated fear of exclusion. Deep-seated fear of exclusion. There may be this kind of internal sense of isolation. So you've actually internalized isolation. Anytime you internalize something, you are saying that you are the cause of it. So if you internalize isolation or, some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You internalize negative labels of who you are, it's going to categorize you, right? And categorizing you sets you aside. It doesn't make you a part of the family dynamic at all. You may have mismatched expectations. Woo, say that fast. You may have mismatched expectations with your family, right? That person over there, their expectations are way up here. Yours is through the roof, right? So different levels of expectation. You may have this response to love, but only to conditional love. You have a family that always has their arms open, wanting to love you unconditionally. Beautiful. You don't have a family like that. You have a family that wants you to earn your position in your family. That is a problem, right? So you may find yourself only responding to conditional love because you've been so conditioned to accept that kind of love. Does that make sense, guys? You may also have this decline in relationship effort. I'm going to put that in the chat box. Decline in relationship effort. Why would I put effort into the relationship if I know it's going to go against me? Why would I put energy into the relationship if I know that I am not going to be welcomed and included? Right? So there's a decline in relationship effort. Anger and hostility, part of the puzzle, 100%. Anger and hostility, right? There may be a profound sense or some kind of internalized feeling of constantly getting further and further and further behind your family in a hierarchy, right? So a family hierarchy, grandparents, great grandparents, grandparents, right? Grandparents, their children, their children's children, right? Those generations. So we have grandma, great grandma, grandma, mom, maybe there's a sister or brother somewhere, so an uncle and aunt, right? And so there's a hierarchy in families. And so when you are alone in your family, though, you want to try to figure out, where am I along that hierarchy? Am I at the very bottom? And if I am, why? What has happened that has put me at the bottom of the social hierarchy in my family? It's a very scary and depressing reality. And it is something that kind of tears families apart. And I see this a lot in my office. It literally tears families. It tears families apart. That sounds kind of weird the way I'm putting it. But it is a form of destruction of the whole family dynamic, right? This is a lot, right, guys? I'm going to pause here. I do have to go. But I want to make sure that I give you guys the meat of the whole conversation. Hopefully this was helpful. What you want to remember about tonight's live chat is there's an emotional disconnect when it comes to your family members. There's often a lack of meaningful connections, shared values, and levels of love and affection, right? So because there are different levels of that, you may find yourself alone, and that's existential aloneness. You don't feel interconnected to people in your environment. And that's a painful reality. You also can run into family cliques where those people over there get along as family and they're having a whole party and a gang. But here's the other side of the family that doesn't ever get invited to anything, right? So family cliques, they can be very detrimental, and they turbocharge the actions and behaviors of people who are a part of the social hierarchy, right? They get more confident, they get more smart alecky, they get more jazzy, they get more arrogant and pompous and narcissistic because they feel like we've arrived. We are close, we are enmeshed, we are like this, and nothing's going to tear us apart, you know? You may also find in challenges within the family dynamic, hopelessness, right? Empathy deficits, perceived favorites. This is all a messy bunch, right? And then the impact on you is going to be major, especially if you have complex PTSD, you know? Okay. I think we're going to pause here, guys. I'm going to go back to the chat box. Let's engage a little bit, and then I have to run, and I know you guys have a Saturday to enjoy as well. So, all right. I love how you guys are supporting each other. My friend Shamita says, oh no, Aunt Susu and Uncle Bibi were invited. I know, right? Don't you have those family members where you're like, oh my God, why'd you have to get the invitation? Why didn't it get lost in the mail? You know, you just want to say, oh my God, no, not today. You know, my father's side of the family was like this. I didn't know my father well. He left my family when he was 2. My mom was, you know, supposedly like, get out of here. You're not going to be the right kind of dad. You know, he was struggling. You know, he was a veteran. And then when he came back from, you know, working overseas, then he came back and he was a musician, but then he traveled all the time and he wasn't trustworthy. And so instead of him remaining in my older brother and myself and our lives, you know, he just didn't try. So, but I did know my father's side of the family, my grandmother, my aunts and uncles over there. And so when there would be anything, a holiday, a birthday, a graduation, you know, I would send them invitations and hope and pray to God that they didn't come, and they would come. You know, it's like, why is it that the people I want to see, their car breaks down, their flight gets canceled, but the people that I don't want to see, everything goes smooth for you? You know? So yeah, my friend Smita, I totally get it. Phoenix says, I grew up in survival mode. It was like that until I left and got out of the box. It was still like that when I had to come back as a handicapped adult. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Phoenix. But you're right. It is a dynamic. It is a dynamic. You guys are loving the fake names here. I mean, come on, you guys have an Aunt Susu. Don't act like you don't. You do. I know I do. I also have an Uncle BB. You guys have one too. I know you do. I know you do. A and B, it's always good to see you. You're okay. You are not late. It's good to see you. I know I'm behind. I got to catch up to the comments. Christina Smith says, my father's side of the family was very cliquish between the haves and the have-nots. Yeah. Don't you find that? It's like the haves and the have-nots. It's the people who go to college and don't go to college. In my family, it was like myself, my 3 cousins, we all kind of like ran from age 18 straight into college, then grad school. And, we were kind of like those people in the family that broke the quote unquote generational curse of never going to college and sticking with it. You know what I mean? And becoming something successful. But then the message in my family has changed over time. But you're right. There are that side of the family who's making really good money, that side of the family that's really judgmental and not very nice, So I know exactly what you're saying. Give It a Think says, yes, my family has cliques. They use a scapegoat to give them something fake to bond over. Ooh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like that. All right, guys. I'm so sorry, Lori. I hear you saying, Tam, you're describing my mom who's deceased. Oh, I'm so sorry. Jeez, that's difficult. And Pulsar says, I think I know why I am being excluded from certain family and feel alone, but I would rather not say it here. Absolutely. Do not. You do not have to say it here. T Bunny Shy says, the other family members that know the truth support the higher ups to keep the narrative and their peace going. That's a good point. That is a family dynamic indeed. Yes. That's a family dynamic indeed. Ellie Wen says, as a child, I think that's what you meant. I actually believed I was one of the loneliest people on earth. Oh, that is so heartbreaking, because you should have been a child, right? That felt fulfilled and loved and close to whoever was around you, That says a lot maybe about your childhood. Matt Stu says, social exclusion is painful. Yes, it is. Where'd you go, Matt? There you are. I'm going to put you up on the screen. Okay, let's keep moving, guys, because we're going to wrap up here in just a minute. Craig Williams, hello, welcome. It's good to see you in tonight's live chat. So good to see you. Phoenix says, I was on the inside of the family clique until I realized what and why I was involved like this, then realized what a hypocrite I had been being. Yeah, that's really mature. When I put a spotlight on this, I became the black sheep. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, that's a common dynamic. Sometimes you may hear family members say, who do you think you are? Don't act like you're better than me. Have you seen that? I've seen that in therapy sessions with people. Yeah. Not saying I'm better than you, just saying that this is a dynamic I don't want to be a part of, right? And that's okay. Ingrid Ralston, hello and welcome back tonight. It's good to have you. Ingrid says, there is a club in my family and I sure do not belong. They have made it very clear with their gossip. They could care less about me. They like that they can use me for money and services. Yeah. Don't you know when you're not a part of the clique? It's so obvious. It's so obvious. And it may not necessarily be something that they are showing intentionally, but it's very easy to find. It's very easy to find it. Let's keep moving, guys. Bree, thank you so much for the super chat tonight and the encouragement to hit that like button or that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's keep moving. I'm literally getting tired, guys. It's coming down on me now, I think. Juby Joe says, I think females get ostracized by other females and males get judged harshly by their older or their elder male figures. Yeah, I totally understand that. That could be a dynamic. I don't see why it wouldn't be. Cara Mellon, hello and welcome. It's good to see you tonight. Cara Mellon says, this happened to me. Why I'm leaving for good. I understand. Sometimes you get so fed up with the fakeness and the lack of genuinity and the lack of love and compassion and the lack of coming together and being together. You just kind of say, you know what, I'm done. I don't want any more of this. I don't care how good it looks from the outside. I don't want it. And that is okay. Thank you, Fairy Girl, for the hearts. I'm going to put you up there. Deborah Lancaster, hello and welcome, my friend. It's so good to have you in tonight's live chat. NGO says, my mother, ringleader, looks at me like I'm weird when I'm discussing other relatives, as if I'm not supposed to know older relatives or learning about them. Oh, wow. Maybe there's a dynamic there somewhere, NGO. That's something for you to kind of like research and see where you're at. Oh, thanks, Impulsor. I appreciate that. Somebody else told me that the other day. Yeah. Somebody said, are you a little down because they're used to my spunky laughter? And I said, yeah, I lost a family member in the family. So I'm a little heartbroken, but we all have to go through it. And he's like, yeah. He said, I'm just used to you laughing and giggling all the time. So thank you, Impulsor. I appreciate you. That's good to know, Phoenix. That's good. It's intentional, right? Because we're talking about such sticky and burdensome topics, right? You have to have some humor to throw in there every now and then, but appropriately, Yeah. All right, guys, let's keep moving. A couple more comments and then we get to go. M&L Odell says, family is everything is kind of cringy. It is. Like, there's so much wrong with that. I already explained it, so I'm not going to go over it again, I promise. But it gets on my nerves. Christine, hello and welcome. It's good to see you back tonight. Christine says, family is not everything if they are toxic and does not show any respect. Lies is not accepted. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree. Totally agree. NS says, family is everything means they are codependent and in a cult. Maybe in some situations. If you missed my video this week on family cults, go check it out. I posted it on Tuesday. I really do break down what a cult is and how it can mimic a family dynamic. So you do want to see that one if you missed it. Lori says, society has taught me fame is everything. I know. Yeah. It taught my family the same thing as well. Every family that I see for therapy, it has taught them the same thing. Captain Commenter says, I found papers that showed my mom came really close to leaving my dad when I was 5. How I wish she had. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I get that. Totally get that. All right, guys, I'm making sure that I get through this, get through most of you. Let's see here. Lori, I'm so happy you feel that way. I'm going to put this in the community box. I'm going to highlight it. She says, I'm so thankful for this supportive community. I think it's so wonderful. And I agree with you. Isn't it supportive? So I hope we continue to grow and maybe hit 100,000 subscribers. What do you guys think? You think we can do it? What about by December? You think we can do that one? That's a little hard. I don't know. But I would love us to keep growing. We're growing at a very nice, steady pace. And that's so amazing. Yvette Terry, hello, my friend. It's good to see you tonight. Yvette says, you build your own family, a small community of people who value you and vice versa. Totally agree with that. And sometimes the people that you have made your family knows how to communicate with the real you. Isn't that something? They know how to communicate with the real you. It's a beautiful thing when you have it. It's a beautiful thing. Let's keep moving, guys. Ghost Smoke, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. Says, my aunt is heavy on the family as everything, but she is a master manipulator. Yeah. Isn't that something? What about those family members who pretend, and they're really, really good at pretending? So good that they look good to the outside world, but you know that when they come in and shut the door, it's going to be a whole other thing. That is the most painful thing to see, My family on my father's side of the family was like that. They looked great in public, but when they would come in and shut the door, it was chaos, it was envy, it was jealousy, it was competition, it was, and I used to stand back and watch and think, this is a dynamic indeed. Something's wrong here. Penny and Rose, hello and welcome. It's good to have you back tonight. Penny and Rose says, family is but a microcosm of the world. It's not the idyllic. Am I saying that right? We expected. Am I saying that right? I feel like I'm not saying that right. I agree with that, though. I agree with that. I agree. It is a microcosm of the macro system, right? It's the microcosm of the bigger system. It is. And it isn't what we expected. No, no. We've been kind of taught incorrectly about family. We've been taught incorrectly about the dynamics of a family. So I said this to my mom the other day. I said, families that I work with, they're very interesting because they go through stages, they go through stages. And it's interesting how a family kind of evolves over time. You can either evolve in a positive way or you can evolve in a negative way. And for me, what I have seen in a lot of the families that I work with, they evolve, but they often fail to realize that sometimes separation or reduction of contact within the family would help them evolve a lot faster. Does that make sense, guys? So certain distance within the family or separation can help them evolve better in the long run. They don't realize that and they can't see it because why? Family is everything. And they don't know how to deal with the reality of how somebody's going to look at them when they say, I'm detached from my family. Some people that holds them back. They don't want to be the person that is going to be labeled the one who left their family. Well, if you have the right education, if you have the right definition, and if you have the courage, you can educate them, and maybe change their mind. Because here's what I also found out working with families. It is in their mind to leave. It is in their mind that they are being abused. It is in their mind and in their heart that they are being trampled over. But because it's family and because of what the world tells them and because of what other family members tell them, they're going to stay in it. They're going to stay in it. And a lot of times it gets real messy. As a therapist, when I see this come into my office, I think, oh my God, is this the kind of dynamic where I'm going to have to pull in my coworkers from different practices to kind of help me navigate this family? Here, you can take the marital piece of this. You can take the cousin piece of this, because sometimes the family is so messy. It's hard to figure out, how do I tackle this person's need? How do I tackle this person's need? How do I help motivate this one? Because the family is so messy. Why is it messy? Because somebody didn't understand boundaries. Somebody didn't understand that they could live without that abusive person. Somebody didn't understand that they don't have to stay connected to Aunt Susu, for example, because Aunt Susu is a manipulator. Family or not, I'm looking at your character. That's kind of the way I see my family. I love you, but if your character doesn't add up, right? What are we doing here? I don't want to be connected to you because your character is flawed. You're doing sneaky things, right? This is kind of what I've heard in family sessions. You're doing sneaky things. You're not being genuine and honest, right? You're mean and you take me for granted. Whatever else you want to add to that list, to me, that's when families should say, you know what, let's put some distance between us. That might help us both grow a little bit. Sometimes you got to make that really hard decision. Yeah. Lori says, I love this complicated topic. That's awesome. Yeah. See, I love existentialism for a reason, guys. Chris M says it's to the point where the abuse and isolation is elder abuse. Yeah, sometimes it can be. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Arwen Perea, thank you so much for the super chat, and so glad this was inspirational to you. I always love seeing you in the chat box, so thank you so much for that. That's awesome. Thank you. All right, let's keep moving, and then we're going to wrap up. I'm literally late. I told myself I would be off of here by 8:45. It's 8:58. We're almost done. I just want to make sure I get most of you tonight. Yeah, Carl, that's my kind of person. Carl's like literally looking up homes to build on Pinterest right now. Yeah. You know, that's my life dream. Either to live in the middle of nowhere, okay, where I don't see any neighbors. You know, right now where my home is, I do have some neighbors around me, and I would really prefer to have more of a secluded area. So my life dream is to live out in the middle of nowhere, right? Or build my own home in the middle of nowhere. There you go. That's my life goal. That's what I'm going to do when I retire. Shauna Thompson says, I'm struggling to find where I go now. 3 years since I went no contact with my family, and I still haven't figured it out. Yeah, I understand. I understand. I think your best bet, Shauna Thompson, and I don't know your story, so I can't give you that personal one-on-one insight, but here's what I would suggest. Keep working on yourself. Grow, change, work on yourself, change your mind, push yourself, learn new things, right? And then you may figure it out. You may figure it out a little easier. If you don't figure it out, it's okay. It's okay. You know, at least you're away from a situation that was burdensome to you. You know, I often suggest for many of my families, if you go no contact, you should be like you're doing, sitting on a YouTube channel, learning, reading books, getting therapy, really doing this work on yourself so you can have a clean slate to work from, so you can then, you know, propel yourself into your future in a healthier way. You know, that would be my suggestion there. Okay. Yeah. Let's keep moving, guys. One more comment, then we're going to go. Your comments are so awesome. I was laughing out loud last night as I was scrolling through. Din Woke, hello, my friend. It's good to see you. Welcome back. Din Woke says, that is where I am with my family. I had to walk away, but they think I am crazy. But I have never been more sane, and I cannot even understand me. So why go back to them? It is delusional for sure. Yeah, absolutely. If you understand you better and this is a better road, stay on the road. Stay on the road. Sometimes you may have to go away, build yourself, then you can go back and be yourself, you know? And if you start finding yourself feeling lost again, walk away. You know? One more person, guys. One more person. Okay. NGO, you're my last one. NGO says, I don't feel at peace at all when I'm around them. Yeah. NGO says, I don't feel peace at all. Whoops. I don't feel peace at all. Let me highlight this in the chat box. I don't feel peace at all when I'm around them. To me, that is the number one thing you need to ask yourself when you are sitting amongst them, when you are texting them back, when you are emailing them, when you're around them at holiday times. You want to ask yourself, how do I feel right now? That's something that I used to do. That's something I still do in my family. If I'm around you, I'm going to ask myself, Tamara, how do you feel right now? And sometimes I can't put the label to it, you know, even if I'm in an educational environment, because I still have to train. I've got to train to keep up with all of my certifications, degrees, and expertise, and the list goes on. So let's say, for example, I'm in a conference. If I'm sitting there and I'm learning things, I go within and I ask myself, how do you feel about that? It's like an inner dialogue that you kind of have to hold with yourself. And I typically ask myself things like, how are you feeling about what they said? Why are you even asking yourself how you felt? You know, Sometimes I also go so far as to ask myself, is this really the truth here? Or is there a different way to look at this? So I actually have a conversation within myself. It's mindfulness. That's really what it is. It's mindfulness. It's I'm being mindful right now of my here and now. And that's going to tell me a lot of what I need to be focused on. It's going to tell me a lot of what I need to be focused on. You know, when I ask myself, how do you feel? What do you want? How does that make you feel? You know, then it gives me a moment to kind of pause and give the answer. And if my answer is something like, oh, I feel kind of embarrassed, or I feel kind of small, or I feel kind of unloved, I'm feeling judged right now. I don't like how I'm feeling. Then my next question, then the next question I have for myself is often, what do you do to get out of this? What do you do to kind of maneuver out of this? What, you know, which way should you go from here? So asking those mindful questions are really, really powerful. So NGO, you said, I don't feel peace at all when I'm around them. That is a sign, right? And you may benefit from asking yourself some of those questions that I just gave you examples on, and see what your heart and your intuition tells you. You know, I think it's really powerful. Guys, thank you for being with me here on this Saturday. I hope this live chat was positive for you and just engaging, and hopefully you felt seen tonight and understood and even validated, right? Like that is healthy, to just feel validated. You know that you're not just feeling this way, that there are other people in the world. This is an actual topic because there's other people in the world who feel like this, you know? And now you know that there's some research in psychology that's happening around this topic as well. I read a statistic the other day that said in our nation, in the United States, family estrangement, more specifically, parent-child estrangement, is becoming the number one avenue for families to fix things, walking away and going no contact. And I read that statistic the other day and I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, this is a thing now, and people are not going to stick around and be abused. So I hope this was validating for you. And I always love spending my time with you. Thank you for the memberships that you guys are giving each other and exchanging. And thank you so much for your support of the channel and of me. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. I'll see you Tuesday with another video, and then I'll be back Friday and Saturday. All right, guys, enjoy your Saturday.